Good morning, Endeavour. Happy Wednesday to you. We've made it to the middle of the week. Gosh, this week is going so quick. I can't keep up. Now, yesterday we had our first chapter of our brilliant class novel, The Fire Thief by Terry Deary, and today we've got chapter 2. We still don't know who our narrator of our story is, do we? Our teller of our story. And chapter 2 today jumps from ancient Greece to Eden City, the year we called 1858. Now the story switches to my childhood. This bit really did happen. I know because I was there, wasn't I? If this jump of 1 million years confuses you, you must have a very small brain. Give up reading and take up knitting or stick whittling. If you are not easily confused, then read on. Go on. What are you waiting for? I'll never forget the week my Uncle Edward died. Well, to be honest, he died twice, and that was odd because most weeks he only died once. And that night he was in a bit of trouble dying for the first time, and he blamed me. He always did. We arrived in Eden City, the darkest, dankest, deariest city in the world. It was also the most wicked and watchful. The crooked streets were made for strangers to get lost. It was almost as if the city wanted you to get lost. A wide lane tempted you to travel that way, but when you did, it twisted and turned and led you to a wide wooden wall where there was no way past. You turned and found there was 2 ways back, and whichever one you chose would be the wrong one. Then, when you walked into another wide wall, you heard a soft snigger. You turned. There was no one there. It was the sly city itself that was laughing at you. We didn't know that when we left the station. We asked a match girl, "Where's the way to the Storm Inn?" She pointed a frozen finger across the misty street. "Go straight ahead until you come to the crossroads, and then turn left towards the river." But there's no straight ahead in Eden City, just a tangle of turnings, bleak black alleys that never see daylight, little lanes that seem to head the way you want to go but lead you into someone else's yard where pecking chickens and petrified dogs fall under your feet. Eden City was a shapeless swamp that sucked you in. It must have mystified map makers. Some buildings were strong stone and some were smoke black brick. Most were wobbling wood that reached up till their tops were lost in the thick air. But all had windows that looked out like blind eyes. The people in the street walked past with eyes just as empty faces and faces as hard as cold cobbles. If you ever wanted to make your nightmares come alive, then Eden City was the place to go. So why did Uncle Edward take me there, you ask? Because no one knew us there, I would answer. If they had known who we were, they might have locked us up or thrown us out, or worse. We smelled the rat smell of the river and turned towards it. Suddenly we stumbled on the Storm Inn. The soft snigger again. Eden City had tormented us for long enough. Like a cruel cat playing with a mouse, now it set us free and dropped us at the door we'd been looking for. "It's fate, my boy," Uncle Edward said. "We were meant to find this happy hostelry." It wasn't fate. It was Eden City letting us loose because it knew the worst was lying in wait for us. "It looks like a happy pig pen," I muttered, but we went in and took a room. We left our cases in our coffin and slept with cockroaches for company. Next afternoon we set out for the richest house in Eden City. This time we took a clattering cab that rocked and rattled over the cobbles. Somehow the cab horse found its way through the drifting fog and only got lost twice. We paid the silent and scowling driver. He scowled because Uncle Edward didn't give him a tip. Uncle Edward never did. The house stood at the end of a curving drive. Stone steps led up to a door as wide as a barn with a brass knocker as wide as my head, though my head in those days wasn't very wide. Uncle Edward brushed the afternoon mist off his faded black jacket and set his yellow cravat straight. He rubbed his scuffed shoes against the grey checked trousers and was ready. He knocked. "We are strolling players," Uncle Edward told the butler. "We entertain with a little show." The butler was carved from ice. "Go to the Storm Inn. They do shows with vagabonds like you," he said, and I swear icicles dripped from his tongue. Uncle Edward reached into his pocket and swept out a scroll of parchment. My uncle did everything with a sweep. He rolled it with a sweep and swept it in front of the knife-sharp nose of the butler with a sweep. "Look here, can I stop all this sweeping now? You must have the picture. Every time Uncle Edward does something, just think to yourself, with a sweep. If you will do that one small thing for me, we can get on with the story." A letter from the mayor of this gracious city, Uncle Edward said. The mayor is an old friend. We went to school together. As the butler reached for the letter, Uncle Edward swept it away. Sorry. It says, he cleared his throat and read the scroll. This is to introduce my good friend, Mr. Edward Slaughter, actor, musician, star of the world's finest stages. This brilliant man will entertain and educate your friends and guests with his magnificent masterpiece, The Uncle. What is more, there is no charge for his awesome art. Your guests may care to reward him with the riches if they feel Mr. Slater has brought riches to their lives. Signed, His Worship, the Mayor of Eden City. Uncle Edward bowed. You're lying. What's his name? The black-suited butler barked. Whose name? The Mayor, of course. What's his name? Why, Mayor. I just always call him Mr. Mayor. The butler shook his head. I swear I heard his neck bone creak. You went to school with him? I did. You said you did. Ah, yes, we were boys together, at least I was. Uncle Edward laughed. So what did you call him at school? The butler snarled. Which school? Uncle Edward replied. Which school? The school you went to with the mayor, of course. Which school was it? Don't you know? My uncle gasped. Why, no. So, how do you know I didn't go to school with him? Because you don't know his name. Neither do you. Uncle Edward smiled. I do, the butler growled, and spots of anger burned in his ghost-white cheeks. You don't? I do. So what is it? Mayor Walter Tweed, the butler said, and he almost smiled. Well done, my Uncle Child, you do know little Wally's name. You call him Wally? The stone-faced butler's stone face cracked in shock. We called him Wally when we went to school, my uncle chuckled. Of course. And good old Wall sent us round here. He said your master would be pleased to see us. He has a party every Friday night. He does, the butler nodded. All rich folk have parties on a Friday night. Uncle Edward hopped up to the top step. You are his butler, aren't you? Of course. The stone-faced frown was shocked and even shaken. So, what's his name? His name? Your master's name, my uncle wielded. It's Mucklethrift, Master George Mucklethrift, the butler blabbed. Correct, my uncle cheered. He turned to me and I stood on the bottom step shivering in my thin-soled shoes, soles as thin as rainwater, soles as thin as my weed-thin arms and legs. Jim, he said. He called me Jim. That could be my name for all I know. He took me in from an orphanage when I was 6 years old. My name at the orphanage was 642. Uncle Edward called me Jim. I called him Uncle even though he wasn't. I hope you followed that, didn't you? Now, Jim, we've met an honest man. It's rare to meet an honest man these days. He peered into the face of the butler. Do you know the last time I saw an honest man? He asked softly. Why, no. When I looked in the mirror. Uncle Edward lied. Let's go inside and look around. Around? The butler gasped. Why, yes, we need to look around. My uncle shrugged his shoulders so wide they wobbled. You're a stranger, the guardian of the door said. Uncle Edward hauled himself to the top step. And you were a stranger to me until 2 minutes ago. But I trust you now, don't I? I suppose so. So let's start our new friendship with a little trust. We need to see the drawing room, the room where we will do our show tonight. The butler bowed his creaking head. He couldn't help himself. Come in, Mr. Slaughter. Call me Edward, my uncle said, and used his arm to guide the butler through the door into the warmth of the golden light. With his free hand my uncle waved me to follow. Fingers of fog followed us in as they were the city's spies, keeping the city's eyes on us. I knew my job. While those two looked around the drawing room, I would explore the house and seek out the riches. After all, we weren't there to do a show and collect pathetic pennies from the rich.